Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this inside beaded Kumihimo braid but using two colours. And this is what it looks like. So this is the effect that you get. And I'm just using a light blue and a dark blue in beads, and then I'm using a black leather cord, and just to provide that contrast in between the beads. So you achieve this nice pattern and it gives a really nice effect, I think. So if you want to learn how to make this, then keep watching. And these are the things that you'll need. Now we'll need our round Kumihimo disc for this braid, and then for this also I like to use my bobbins, and it's just because I'm using beads I prefer using bobbins with them. You don't have to, you can just knot the ends of your cords to keep the beads on there, but it's a nice optional extra. And then you need some cord. In this case I'm using some 1mm black leather cord, but again you can change it up how you want to. And then the beads I'm using are these two colours, a lighter blue and a darker blue. And these are 4mm beads, which is a 6/0. The only thing you have to make sure of is the holes in your beads are large enough to take whatever cord you're using. So get your things together and then let's get started. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to cut our cords ready so we can start making the braid. And I've just cut 4 lengths of 1 metre each, because we're going to be doubling them over, so that's going to end up making our 8 lengths that we need for the braid. So you want to cut them, and then you want to find roughly about the middle, so put all your ends together, and then the middle is here where I have my finger. And then the way I do it is I just get something, it can be a scrap piece of wire, it can be some other cord or something, or even just tie a knot, like a regular knot. It's just to pinpoint where the middle is, but also to help keep the cords together, like so. So that's how I'm going to start it off. So I now have my cords ready, and we'll need to place them on the disc. So the way that I do that is I grab my round Kumihimo disc, and then I take the cords that I just got ready, and then put that piece of wire or whatever you're using and the middle of them cords down through the middle. And now we need to start distributing the cords into the slots so we can then start making the braid. And now this is just a regular 8-strand braid, so all you do is put 2 on the top dot around there, and then another 2 around the dot on the side, and then you want to put 2 around the bottom dot, and then the last 2 you want to put them around the other dot on the side. So there you go. So that's the setup for your basic 8-strand Kumihimo braid. And then what we need to do now is just do a little section of just braid without any beads, so we have something to finish off a braid at the end. And because this is a regular 8-strand Kumihimo braid, so just a basic one, all you do is I just grab my top left one first, bring it down over everything, stay on the left side on the bottom, and then bring the bottom one up to the top and stay on the same side as well. Turn it, and then bring the top left down, and the bottom right one up. And this is just how I do it, that's what comes natural to me. You might have a different rhythm of doing it. And just keep turning a disc. And then this first section I'm going to make about somewhere between 1 and 2 centimeters long before we start adding in the beads. So I've now made a little section of just my braid with my cord for about 1 to 1.5 centimeters, just so we have something to finish it off at the end. And now it's time when I'm going to start adding in my beads. And to do that, I'm just going to flip my disc over and just lay it down so I have it where my cords are coming out from. And then all you do is just take one cord at a time, and then you want to basically load up all your cords with your beads. And now to do this, I've already strung all my beads onto my lengths of cord all around my Kumihimo disc, and you want to put them on in quite a specific way to achieve the pattern that we want for this specific braid. Now to explain how you need to put on your beads. As you might be able to tell, obviously I'm using light blue and a dark blue for this specific braid. You can obviously use whatever colours you want, just switch the colours out with the ones you want to use. But this is just an example. You might be able to tell that I have them alternating on each strand. So for example on this, I'm starting with a light blue, then a dark blue, light blue and a dark blue. And it goes like that on all of them, they're alternating. The only thing you want to keep in mind is they need to kind of be put on in a specific way, because they're not all the same all the way around. To try and explain, if you see, this is the next pair that I need to do. So I'm going to take this top left one, bring it down, and then the bottom right one and bring it up. And that will be my next pair, but where I'm going to start incorporating the beads. So imagine that across this way on your board that you have something that splits it, and then the two sides are mirrored from each other. So on this side, on this pair, on the left side, on the left cord of that pair, you start with a light blue and then dark blue and so on. And then on the right cord from this pair, you start with a dark blue and then so on, alternating down. And then moving down to this pair, on the same side, if you split down the middle, you have the exact same thing. The light blue, dark blue, light blue, dark blue. And then the other one starts with dark blue and then light, then darker, then light. So these two are the same. So the cord on the left side starts with the light and the cords on the right side starts with the dark. Now if you then split that down the middle, move over to the other side, you'll find that it's the opposite way. On the left side, the left cord, you'll start with the dark and then alternate all the way down. And then on the right side, we'll start with the light and alternate all the way down. And it's the same with this one. Dark on the left and light on the right. And that's how it works. So that's why I say if you have this down the middle, the two sides are mirrored from each other. So that's how you need to put on your beads, and then we'll start incorporating them into the braid. Now as I said, I've put all my beads on, and what I've just done is at the end I've just tied a simple knot, and that will hold them in place, because obviously you don't want them falling off as you're using it. And I'm using some quite thick cord here, it's 1mm leather cord, so this will hold fine. You don't need to worry about this coming undone. The friction in the leather cord makes sure that the knot stays in place. So you can either just do it like this, and obviously take your beads down, further down, so you have the space above here to create your braid with. So work with them like that. Or you can also use something like these bobbins. Now I sometimes use this for when I do beaded Kumihimo, but in this case, because I'm using the 1mm leather cord, I don't really feel like I need to. So that's just how I'm going to be working with it, but just do whatever's most comfortable for you. So now that I've got all my beads ready, I'm ready to start making the rest of the braid where I incorporate the beads. Now just one little note is the amount of beads that you need. Obviously it's going to depend on the materials you use, as in what beads and what cord and the size of things, what size beads and cord you use and all that. So it's just a guideline, but on each of these strands I have between 30 and 31 beads. And that's just for the 4mm beads and then the 1mm leather cord. And that's going to end up being about a 7–7.5 inch bracelet. So that's just a guideline to how many beads that you're going to need. But you can obviously change up the amount depending completely on what you're doing. So to start making the rest of the braid, I'm going to pick up my board, my disc, and then we're going to start braiding along with our beads. Now I'm in this position now, and this is the next pair that I need to do. And the way I work, I normally go from the top left, go down, and then the bottom right and go up. That's just my way of working. So what I'm going to do is release that top left one, and then let one bead drop down. And then normally what we would do with if you do just regular beaded Kumihimo where the beads are on the outside of the braid, you would tuck it under in the middle, the other cords. Now with this one we don't want to do that. We want to just bend over a cord and bring it down and make sure that your bead sits on top of everything here. So basically I'm going to take the bottom one here, release one bead, bring the cord over, and just make sure that that bead sits on top of everything. So that's where this braid is a little bit different than your regular beaded Kumihimo, but that's where the effect you get and where kind of your bead sits inside of the braid. And then that's the first pair that I did with the beads. Now I need to turn my disc and then get on with the next pair. And for this, what you want to make sure that you do is you just do the exact same thing. You take the top left, in my case, release one bead, and then bring it down. Now what you want to make sure is when you bring this cord down, that that first bead, or the bead you put on from the last pair, that gets trapped in there. So when you put this cord down, you need to go on the outside, and then release that bead, and let it sit on top of everything else again. And then the top right, bottom right one, sorry. And then make sure, because then these beads can kind of move back and forth along the top of your disc, but it's alright, just before you bring that specific one down, just make sure that it sits as far in as it'll go, but still on top. And then just like before, we release one bead, push it down, and make sure the cord goes on the outside of the bead from the last pair, like so. So them first beads, the first ones you put on, they kind of get trapped in there now, and they won't be moving around. And then now it's time to turn the disc again, move on with the next pair. And then just to show you again a bit closer, I'm going to take my top left cord, get one bead ready, release it down, and make sure that bead from the previous pair is in between. So the cord that I'm bringing down goes on the outside, fasten it, and then make sure as well that that bead stays on top of your braid. And then from the bottom, I bring my bottom right one, release one bead, make sure that that bead from the previous pair is pushed in as far as it'll go in, and then come around to the outside of that bead so that gets secured in place. Make sure this bead on the current cord you're using stays on top, and then they sit nicely there. Move on to the next pair. Let's do the same thing. From the top, release one bead, let it drop down, and if you just let it drop as you go, it will naturally usually fall and just place itself on top of the braid, like so. And then that from the previous pair is locked in place. From the bottom, take the bottom cord, release the bead, make sure you go on the outside of the bead from the previous pair, like so, and then move on. And that's all you do to create this braid. And you just keep going like this for the whole length that you need your bracelet or whatever you're making to be. And if you manage to put all the beads on properly to achieve this specific pattern, then you don't need to worry about anything other than just keep doing this. Then you can go pretty automatic with doing this. Just find a rhythm and the pattern will work itself out. So continue like this until you reach the length that you want your beaded pat to be. And I've now continued the braid, adding in my beads all the way along, and I've now reached the point where I feel like this section of my beads is going to be long enough. So what I want to do is finish off this end the same way that we started the other end. So the other end we started with a little section of just braiding with the cord. I'm going to do the same thing on here. So I just reached the last part, added in my last beads on the last pair that I did, and then move on to the next pair, same as the whole way. The only difference is we continue the braid the exact same way, we just stop adding in the beads. So I continue, and then turn my disc, and then what you'll find is when you've done a few of these pairs without adding your beads, your cords and your braid will naturally start to singe in, so become a bit smaller. because you don't have your beads in there. And then you just do this for about the same length that you have on the other end, so a couple of centimeters or so, whatever you want. So I've now kept braiding and made that little section of just braid with cord, and now I was just going to finish off the ends. And the way to do that I do it, is I just grab two cords opposite each other, not the pair that I've just done, but the pair that I was about to do. So I'll grab these two, bring them across the middle, and then just do a regular knot over the middle, like so. And I move on to another two opposite each other. Do the same, make a regular knot, tighten it over the middle, and then with the last ones, opposite again, over the middle, tie them off over the middle as well. And then the very last cords, just do the one last overhand knot and finish that off right at the middle, like so. So I've then finished off that end and it's nice and secure without having to be on the board, so I just remove my board, and then I have this end, and then all you need to do is get rid of these ends. What I would just do is put a little bit of glue around these knots, just enough to secure them in place so you can cut off the excess. And then all you need to do is add your Kumihimo ends, which I have another video on how to do that, so I'll link that in the description box. Otherwise, that's that end finished. And then you have your braid here. So inside beaded Kumihimo braid, but with two colours. And I just chose these two blue ones. Obviously on the other end you want to remove your wire or whatever you've used. And then you can just finish off the ends like I mentioned. And add whatever findings you want to use. And then you have your finished bracelet. So I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this macrame spider, and it's perfect for Halloween. And this is what it looks like. So this is the top of it. It faces upwards. You have body, the head, all your legs that are freestanding and bent into shape. And then your eyes or fangs are what you want them to be. And then because of the knots that we use to make